Good morning, everybody. Hope we are all doing well. I hope we all got some good rest and whatnot. Let's dig into the market. I got too many trend lines, don't I? So, yesterday, short review. We got down to that 4-hour squeeze bottom pre-market. Started a nice pop back. Opened right around that 38.43 and made a beeline straight to the daily 21. For a number of us in the room, we were saying that was kind of too hard, too fast, and we could come right back. So some of us entered shorts as we lost the 21 and played it back to the daily 8, daily 15. So provided a nice short early. Then the rest of the day was kind of a very slow grind back for another rejection and back through the daily 15 to the bottom of that 4-hour squeeze. We tagged our key level below that 38.07 and caught a nice bounce, closing around that 38.23. We've continued a nice little trend line up overnight and look like we are trying to set new pre-market highs before our CPI data comes out at 8:30. I'll grab the economic calendar real quick. Excuse me. Economic calendar. So, for today, we have our CPI coming out at 8:30 and the 2 p.m. Beige Book and Federal Budget. If you're not familiar with these, definitely worth looking them up. They don't hold as much weight, let's say, as an FOMC minutes. We don't see that kind of crazy algo, but we can see movement from 2 p.m. on after they digest this information. So, also on Friday, we have some retail sales and some other economic data and that University of Michigan stuff. So, some things to look out for. Another key thing I wanted to cover. We have our trend line from the low of year. Trend lines can be drawn a number of different ways, and I kind of choose which way I'm going to draw them based on a number of different things. So, for instance, this trend line may have started a little bit more like this, where I connected a recent low to another low, and you can see how it bounced again right here, right? And you can see I left out this extreme wick. Just kind of pointing that out to show there's a number of ways to draw trend lines that can really help you in your game. You can see drawing it to this recent low back here helped provide that bounce point. And a good early indication. Sorry, let me get it on it. A good early indication, what was it? 2 Thursdays ago that we were going to be going down a little bit, and it was resistance, looking like right here. We lost it, fought back to it, lost it, fought back to it. If I reconnect it. Point being, if you connect it to this extreme wick, we didn't really test it yesterday. But if you connect it to one of these opens, we did test it yesterday, right? So I'm going to leave it connected there. And it's not from the extreme, it's from the previous extreme, because we just barely set a new low of year. Really, I even marked this one, that 36.42, knowing that there's one $3 lower. So, point being, we have some trend lines in play today below. We also, let me step to a 4-hour because the trend tool painted the downtrend line perfectly. At least for extremes, because that's what the trend tool does. It looks for extreme wicks. You know, when I'm drawing a trend line, I might also draw something that's connecting opens. And you can see that these wicks rejected that. Like here, just to give you an idea. Something like that. So rejected it, yada, yada, yada. Back below it. Now we are guiding it back above it. So really not in play, starting to get outside of it. First peak out was yesterday. Now we're going to have another potential. Well, we're already out of it. That's why I took it away. But point being, we are on a nice wedge for today. This economic data will come out at 8:30, and we'll start to see a reaction to understand what we're dealing with. If the data is not too bad and we go up, we could open back up in these moving averages, right back where we were yesterday for open. Or if the data is not so favorable, we could be slipping down to the trend line and key level before open. If we open in between, we're going to be in a wedge that we need to play off the extremes. So let's see how this economic data goes, but we could potentially start to give out today. If we give out this trend line, this 4-hour squeeze bottom, and I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and drop down to lower time frames. I'll do an hourly, just so it gives me 20 days back so I can see those lows. But, come on, don't freeze on me. Well, while I'm waiting for it to react, there we go. If we start to give out that trend line, excuse me, 3807, we also have a 2-hour and a 4-hour squeeze right there for support. So a lot of things that if they give out, we will probably quickly go down to 3773. Last month's POC. Past that, 3741. If we can continue to hold, economic data maybe not so bad. Maybe starting to show signs that inflation is calming down, we'll see. But if we can get going to the upside, the daily 15 overlaps at 3843. The daily 8 kind of splits this zone between 3843 and 3855. We have our 4-hour, 2-hour squeeze. Top at the daily 21. If we can start to get through that, it'd be back to that psychological 3900, 3910, and the top of this trend line from the recent highs. So we've got a wedge within a wedge. Let's see if we can get through the highs from Friday and yesterday. And if we can, excuse me, if we can start to get through those highs and daily 21 and squeeze tops, we'll start to push back up for the rest of the week. If we give out to the downside, we could fall back down near lows and this daily squeeze. Potentially even this week. So it is also monthly OPEX this week. So let's note our 2-hour and 4-hour squeeze and this range that we are in, because we could easily go sideways and wait on something like JPM, some bank earnings to start coming out end of week. So key levels above and below. Let's see how this economic drop goes in about 30 minutes. In Q. As you can see, my trend lines are all a little different than what you might expect, and I don't always update for extremes, right? And you can see, pre-market, we have been guiding up this trend line from last week. We could also draw a trend line from the highs. Same wedge today. Squeeze bottoms right near trend line from the lows, and squeeze top, trend line from the highs. So, well, let's see if we just stay at all these moving averages. If we start to give out trend lines up or down, we do have a key level below at the bottom of that squeeze. And if we can break back out of these squeezes to the upside, we've got our key levels above to get back to that 12,000 and the daily moving averages. So let's see what we get on NQ. We can at least see NQ and Ruddy are trying to lead to the upside on this teensy little gap up. Ruddy, kind of the same thing. If you drew a trend line, we're trying to guide up that pre-market. The Ruddy might be a great early indicator that if we can't get through these daily moving averages, the squeeze top and the 21, that we can be coming back and staying. And if we give up trend line, you know, back down to recent lows. YM. Not as many trend lines on YM, just kind of looking at the main one, which is in play today, down at that 30,800 and at that squeeze bottom. I will say yesterday in YM, they did some heavy rotation early and kind of held up the market. I mean, you know, if you look at ES and NQ, they had the pop but then dropped hard. YM stayed up for a little while and provided some of that slow grind that we got from the morning to the afternoon back to the 21 on ES. There was a lot of YM rotation in that, but once YM gave out the 21, it set up that end of day flush. I know some folks were asking, why are we flushing back down so hard? You just got to look at exactly what's happening on everything. ES rejected the daily 21, fought all the way back to it, rejected, fought all the way back to it, rejected. 1, 2, 3, we're probably going down. And then if you pair that with YM, got up above the daily 21 and bounced on that third attempt, pretty much did not bounce. So when you have ES rejecting the 21, you have YM giving up the 21 after holding it all day, after hitting a squeeze top. It's just a little extra fuel. So that's why we keep an eye on all these different things. YM today, let's see if it can stay up in these moving averages. When the economic data comes out, let's see if it pushes a little higher. If it's favorable, back up to the 21, squeeze tops. If not, squeeze bottoms, 30,800. Apple. So Apple as well was decently strong yesterday. Big pop at open, came back to its open level pretty much, back up again, came back, slipped its open level a little, and right back up. I've been kind of noticing lately on Apple, its open level can be very important, especially on the options with our Beast tool. I've seen a little too often lately how Apple will open and make a, calls or puts, they'll open and make a move up. They'll come back and hit their open and make that move up again. So definitely something to watch out for on Apple. Let's see if we can continue to push to the upside. Try and set new highs again. Get back to our 149, 150. Or if we start to roll back over, 144 support. Trend line from lows as well, intersecting that 144 today. And the daily 50 settling at that 144 with our other moving averages right below. So if the data is not favorable and we start heading down, Apple will likely go back to 144, daily 50, and should things continue further, we have our moving averages that will likely keep Apple up in the squeeze bottom. That daily 21 is going to be coming up pretty close, so let's just keep an eye. But Apple's been pretty strong. Our 8 is above our 21. We could make pullbacks and tap the 8 and the 21 and just continue. We'll see what we get. Oh, I'm going to drop down to a 30-minute so we can see those squeezes as well. Chips, been pretty much ugly this week in a downtrend. But let's see if they're trying to base and scoop back up for a U. If they can continue, if AMD can continue to hold 75.76, we could get that scoop up, get back to the daily 8 and 15 above. But if we start to give out that 75.76 that we've held, we could be going back down. Amazon. Definitely weak to the downside yesterday compared to something like Apple that we looked at, right? And they brought it back to this 109, 110. There's just still 18th, the sliver of an hourly there. Although it's not showing up, so maybe it's not. But we have a little support down at 108, yesterday's low. If we continue to hold that and get back through 110, we can get back to these daily moving averages above. If we give out that 108 and yesterday's low, we do have this low back at 106 and some change. And low of you. BA. My, oh my, I did not check in on BA yesterday. But we talked about this a little bit yesterday in prep for yesterday, that as long as, in most of the preps that we've had lately, I've said as long as BA can stay at these daily moving averages, we can continue seeing upside, especially if she starts to help us out and move off of the daily averages to the upside. And going into open and prep yesterday, I talked about how it scooped down to the daily 50 and this squeeze that it's been stuck in. So it could be a load up to try to break out. Looks like we got that breakout. Not sure if they had news or anything to help. When are their earnings? In a couple of weeks. So, very interesting. Keep an eye on BA today. If economic data is not as favorable and market starts to roll, this could be a engulfing trade where it did move up dramatically, but if market rolls over and starts heading lower, it will get dragged right back just as dramatically. But if market can hold up, BA will likely try to start pushing above 150 and start to open up this 1 day, 2 day squeeze, which you can see are already starting to step up. So pushing against them a little more will make them step up more and get thinner so that BA can head back higher. So very interesting, and will be a good gauge today with that economic data. And the CPI could drop, and as they're digesting it, we could go down and test squeeze bottoms and those trend lines and still take off higher. I know some folks think we have no reason to be going higher right now, but we are in an uptrend. And, we never quite know what big money's planning, so. Cat, clear downtrend and weak. So still no interest on this one just yet. Gonna let it be. Google made it all the way back to the daily 15 and 21 yesterday. Gonna be opening right about there. Wouldn't be surprised for it to dip to the daily 50 just to tag them all before potentially making that trip back higher for the rest of the week, because we only have 3 days left till the split. So let's see what we get on Google. She starts giving out 2260. I mean, you can see, if you look left from here, 2260, daily 50's there right now. It's the top of a very strong drive. So we should be seeing support there. If we start to give out, we could see a dramatic drop. And, frankly, I would think going into Google's split, before it gets down to about the same price as Apple after the split, I'd kind of expect them to run it up. But we've seen a number of splits lately do the opposite. So keep an eye on that 2260. If it starts to give out, 2230 maybe could hold it up. But if that gives out, we could drop kind of dramatically. So GS. Yeah, I had a feeling, looking at that YM chart earlier, that finance led and held up for a good amount of the day before coming back. So we got that on GS off of the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze. We have a daily below. Yeah, we got a daily down there. At that 275, should we start to lose this 4-hour squeeze bottom around 290, 288, we'd likely be heading back to that 275. But if we can continue to hold, get back through the moving averages and yesterday's high, we can start pushing into the top of the squeeze, get above 300, back to the daily 50 and the top of the daily squeeze. JPM. Earnings on Thursday. So just going to be watching it as a gauge, and depending on how their earnings go, we'll play GS as a sympathy trade. Not that I love trading finance, but it is earnings season. They might give me a reason. So let's see. Not expecting much out of this today. It has earnings on Thursday. Gonna leave it be. Meta basically chopped around the daily 15 yesterday. Let's see if it does the same. If market can get going to the upside, it'd be a play back to the daily 8 and daily 21 above. If we're heading down, once we lose 162, 161, yeah, we got some squeezes there too. So we could just stay in this range. If we give out 160, back to 155. Microsoft. Oh, me, I did not notice this one drop so hard yesterday. Well, just like BA in reverse, folks, if we are going to have a steady up day on the market, Microsoft could play a dramatic catch-up to this dramatic drop. I want to see it at least stay above 254. at the extreme, obviously 252, to start heading back up to those daily moving averages. But if market's going to keep slipping, now I got to go back and look. Yeah. Yep, 254, 252. I'm sorry, 253 and 252. Need to stay support. We need to stay above that to start making our way back up. If we lose that, we can slip pretty fast to 245. 250 could save us. Last bounce point. So let's see. You know, like we could see BA. We could if we have the upside scenario today. BA could have a slow grind in its squeeze top. This could have a dramatic catch up. And if we drop today, BA could have a dramatic catch up to the downside. So we got a couple of those today to keep an eye on. Netflix, pretty sharp descending wedge. So if we can hold the squeeze bottom, 173, get through squeeze top, could be a good play back to the daily 21 and daily moving averages above. If market's going to see some upside, we'll know here in about 15 minutes. NVIDIA in a wedge. Could almost connect that over to this recent low. But again, not a huge interest. If market's up, back to moving averages. If down, we're pretty close to low of year. We do have that daily squeeze below. QQQ. Let's see if this down channel continues, right? If we can get through the resistance from the highs, and you could also draw another one like this that's a little less extreme. So kind of a first indication, if we can get above this, we might see some upside. Still have to take out this resistance and the squeeze top in yesterday's high for QQQ to do something like get back to the daily 50, which is now stepped down to a pre-market high from Monday. But if we can't get through first or second trend line or squeeze top, likely coming down to test yesterday's low and that squeeze bottom. And I didn't think I'd have to do this so soon, but we do have this key level. If you remember, we marked it, you know, a couple of Thursdays ago when we were doing a prep for Thursday. I just grabbed a little support zone and said, hey, if we can stay above this, we could see a nice reversion of the mean. We got that. We came back to it, lost it, but once we got above it, we just took right off again to that recent high. So if squeeze bottoms start to give out today, right back to this, and if things really pick up, back to those lows, right? So let's see how we deal with this. Let me jump down to a 30 again. Yeah, we got a 30-minute squeeze right at the top of that, right at this trend line as well. So let's see how we deal with 30-minute squeeze at trend line, pre-market high and low. We start to give out pre-market low. Let's see how we deal with this squeeze. As long as we can hold 285, 284.5, we can try to get back up to the top of the squeeze and through the daily moving averages. Obviously, and like I said, below that, back to this zone. Roku, not a huge interest really. Upside Probably just getting back to the daily moving averages. Yeah, downside, couple bucks up, couple bucks down. Shop. No interest. Yeah. Snow. A little profit taking yesterday after a nice run. Back to daily moving averages. Let's see if it catches a bounce there. I think I saw someone posted they got an upgrade after the close yesterday. So let's see if they want to take it right back up off these moving averages on that upgrade. I think it was 200 price points, something like that. So let's see if they want to take it right back up to recent highs. But you can see it got to this daily 2-day squeeze top once and twice. And now we're coming back off of it. And back at the mean. Let's see if it gets bounced to get back up for continuation. If we give out, yeah, that squeeze is way down below. Back to recent lows. SPX. So you can say that yesterday we completely filled this gap. Going to go ahead and get rid of it. I'm going to have a slight gap up depending on how that data goes. But to the upside, get back to the daily moving averages and then back to fill this gap. And get back to Friday's highs and zone above, right? To the downside, if we start to give out that 3,800, just like on ES, back to 3,770 and then 3,740. SPY and ES continuing to look strong. These daily moving averages are probably going to be stepping in even tighter and completely inside the squeeze. So let's always remember that this is an OPEX week and we could just see sideways action. After a nice run up, some profit taking back, we could go sideways the rest of the week before the next move higher or lower. That daily 50 on SPY is starting to step down into this daily squeeze top. Let's see how we deal with our 30-minute squeeze, and it should feed us into our 2-hour squeeze today. Keep an eye on your trend line from highs. And yep, we're coming up on, or tested yesterday, kind of the trend line from lows. So let's see how this wedge goes. Tesla. Yet again, off of key levels, Tesla pumps hard to 718 and then drops hard to 690. And then basically just messed around the rest of the day. Back up to 705 and moving averages and back down to 690. Key levels. Hits our key level, drops to our zone, back up, back down. So let's see today. If we can start getting going to the upside. All of the daily moving averages are coming into the same line. And it'll be right at the top of that daily squeeze. So Tesla will be a good gauge as well for today. If we can't get through this squeeze top and we start to lose 690, we'll be firing to the downside likely. But keep an eye on this 2-hour squeeze, lining up perfectly with our zones and key levels. We can start to get going, daily 50 above, 744 again, daily squeeze, up at 760, spanning all the way to 780. And VIX. On this, I had this trend line off of the previous day's low. We took that out, but we held the previous day's low. So updated the trend line, just so that we can see a clearer trend now. a less sharp trend. And you could draw a trend line from highs that we rejected yesterday. So same wedge going on VIX, right at this 27 and daily 8. You know, hit the daily 21 yesterday, starting to fade back. So just like market's been moving off the 21 to the upside, and we pulled back to it for some testing, VIX has been going to the downside, and we've got our pop back to the daily 21 yesterday. So we could see a bounce in the market. We could see VIX fade back down. It has to lose the daily 8 at 2680 today. We'd have to lose this trend line, you know, basically 2650, 2625 today. Numbers that we were at yesterday. And give out this low that it's bounced twice. And then we can see that full H back to 24.5, this daily squeeze bottom, and the daily 200 at 24. But if market's going to roll over, VIX will probably settle at 27, daily 8, and turn around to go back through daily moving averages to squeeze top at 28 and the daily 50 at 28.40. So hopefully everybody found this helpful. As always, feel free at any point to drop any questions in the chat on YouTube. I'm always keeping an eye on it while I'm working through prep. Also, just because I love to tease things, right? We all love that. I finally pumped out Richie's new tool, and I'll give you a little preview. He's still got to go through and set some color schemes and different dash lines and whatnots, but ultimately it will plot key levels for us. Things like the previous day's high and lows, this week's high and lows, last week's high and lows, last month's high and lows, this month's high and lows, yada, yada, yada. Some opens and closes, like monthly open, monthly close. So, working out on a new tool that once Richie makes it real pretty, we're gonna, make it available for you guys. But it's definitely something that can help us in our prep to say, oh, we're approaching monthly low, let's see if we bounce there. Or even intraday to say that we just took out last month's, close and blah, blah, blah. So, just a little exciting teaser for you guys before we wrap up. Hopefully everybody found this helpful. And we'll see you in the chat today. Good luck on your trading. And if this is your first time tuning in to Predicted Trades, definitely check out our website. You can get a link to join our Discord server and start to learn our system. But thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you in the chat.